Hi, my name's Danny, and these are my diecast disasters. In this video, I will be restoring a Matchbox Speed Kings K-50 street rod. These were produced by Lesney, England from 1973 until 1981. Sadly, I don't have all of the parts for this car, so it will be a custom restoration. Let's take a closer look. We can see this little roadster has had quite a hard time of it. A lot of the chrome has rubbed off of the plastic parts and it is missing a headlight. The casting is in quite good condition, although the rear left mudguard is bent. A lot of the green paint has also been chipped away. The wee plastic steering wheel is broken, and most bothersome of all, the windscreen frame is broken off. Note the cool toolkit in the boot of the car. The pieces on the base of the car are in good condition apart from missing most of their chrome. There are quite a few rivets on this car. I start by drilling out the ones holding on the chassis. Nope, not quite. The chassis is gently pried off with a small screwdriver. I now drill out the rivets holding on the cab. The supercharger slides out. I drill out another rivet holding in the motor and the exhaust. The exhaust was a little bit tricksy to take out. The windscreen section is removed. I try to push out the seat tab from underneath, but it won't budge. Well, there you go. Not much pressure and it just broke right off. The front axle is easily popped out from under some small plastic tabs. And the same with the rear. The front grille pushes out quite easily. The pieces are now given a good wash in some warm soapy water. There was quite a lot of sand and gunk on this toy, so I'm making sure I get into all of the little nooks and crannies. I now strip the metal parts. I paint on some paint stripper, thoroughly covering the parts, and leave it to work for 5 to 10 minutes. The blistered paint is then rubbed off in some cold water with a toothbrush. Here are the parts after 2 applications of paint stripper. I use a wire brush on my rotary tool and some steel wool to remove the oxidation from the castings. I then use a polishing pad on my rotary tool and polishing compound to bring the castings to a high shine. There are some very nice details on the rear of the cab. The polished castings are painted with 3 coats of Tamiya X25 clear green. This is followed by 3 coats of Tamiya TS65 pearl clear. Here are the parts after painting. I now remove what's left of the chrome from the plastic parts. I add a small amount of caustic soda to some hot water from the tap. Do not touch this caustic solution as it will burn you. The plastic parts are dropped in. You can see the chrome falling straight off of them. After only a couple of minutes, the parts are removed and rinsed. You can see most of the chrome is already completely gone. I give the parts a quick rub and a dry. There is some sort of gold on the exhaust piece, but it just appears to be part of the casting. Now to fix the broken windscreen frame. I have an unused clear plastic window section from an HO scale kit that fits perfectly as a windscreen replacement. I will need to start by cutting out the rounded base of the pillars so that the windscreen section fits a bit better. I start by cutting carefully downward with my craft knife. Damn it. Always be careful when cutting this kind of plastic to lay it down on a flat surface first. Now my window fits better, I need to repair the frame. I cut a thin strip of 1.5mm thick styrene. It's just about right. I give it a little bit of a sanding. I now cut the pieces of my frame to length. I use some super glue to carefully glue the pieces of the frame into place. I now cover this with Tamiya cement and leave it overnight to cure. Now that the cement has cured, I can use files and sandpaper to tidy it up. Here is a repaired windscreen frame with some grey primer. I then paint the repaired windscreen with some chrome. Now to paint the chassis of the car. I start by giving it 2 coats of Molotow silver dollar silver paint. The silver chassis is now painted with a dark wash. I am using Army Painter's dark tone wash, but you could use another wash such as Citadel Nuln Oil or similar. You could also use some thinned down black paint, but I do not think this will give you as good an effect as a commercial wash. Here is a chassis after the wash has dried. You can see the details are far more defined and it has a much more realistic appearance. This process is also applied to the motor and grille. Now onto the exhaust section. It is in great condition other than the annoying missing headlight. The first step is to remove the remaining headlight. I managed to salvage 2 headlights from a damaged yesteryear's model. These are carefully glued in place. They fit perfectly, and I actually think they end up looking better than the original headlights. The piece is now primed with my Molotow silver paint and then painted with chrome. The Supercharger and boot cover are also painted in chrome. The seat is in great condition, but I thought it looked a bit boring in black. I had a look at some green roadsters online and decided on white. The seat is painted with 2 coats of Tamiya Fine White Surface Primer, 2 coats of Tamiya X2 White, and 2 coats of Tamiya TS13 Clear. Here it is after painting. The steering wheel has a small break in it. I repair this with a small amount of super glue. I then give it a coat of gloss black paint. Good as new. Lastly, to tidy up the wheels a little bit. I did have a hunt around the toy stores for a car with nicer tyres that I could steal, but I couldn't find any the same size. Luckily these wheels were not in terrible condition anyway. I used my chrome pen to re-chrome the rims. After the chrome had dried, the wheels were dipped in some self-shining floor polish, covered and left to dry. Now that all of our parts are refurbished, it is time to put the car back together. I start with a small dab of glue in the cab and attach the seat. Next, I replace the windscreen and dash section. The boot cover clicks into place. Next, a couple of drops of glue on the base, and the exhaust section is fitted and pressed into place. Next, the motor. And the supercharger just slides back in. Another small drop of glue and the grille is pressed into place. Now I will put the wheels back onto the chassis. The front axle clicks back into place under the plastic tabs, and the same with the rear. The chassis section is now attached back onto the body of the car. The steering wheel is pressed back in. Some more glue is applied and the cab is fitted back into place. Finally, I finish the bottom of the car with some faux rivets. I need some epoxy putty. I then make some tiny balls of putty and simply press them into the rivet holes with a watch tool. Once these are hardened, I paint them silver. They are then finished with some more wash. Now that our Roadster is reassembled, let's take a moment to have a look back at what we started with. Our hot rod wasn't looking that hot. In fact, it was looking like a die-cast disaster. Its nice green paint job was chipped and worn. The rear mudguard was bent out of shape. Most of its flashy chrome had been rubbed away and it was missing a headlight. And worst of all, the top of the windscreen frame was long gone. And here is our finished product. It has a deep, shiny new green paint job, which is really set off by the white seat. The patches of yellow plastic are no more, replaced with steely looking metal and shiny chrome. And no more bugs in the face of the Matchbox man with his new windscreen. I am quite pleased with how this restoration turned out, as it took what looked like a pretty junky car into a car that is nice to have on my shelf. I'm not, however, 100% happy with how the Molotow chrome applied to the window frame and the boot cover. I may address this again in the future, possibly spray paint on the chrome. The white seat looks great with the clear green and pearl paint job, and the details on the shaded metal parts really pop and stand out from the chrome parts. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.